All right. Well, hi everyone. I'm Grace Cupat, founder and CEO of ViaSkill. Most people quietly lose their proof of careers. Projects get finished, fires get put out, and new skills get built. And then those disappears in old emails and forgotten files. ViaSkill is a living career platform that helps you capture what you do as you go, turn those into stories, skills, and proofs you can reuse for interviews, promotions, or whatever comes next. This is the ViaSkill Founder Series, where I talk to founders who are in the arena right now of building in real time. The goal here is to share honest vision of building companies, what's working, what's hard, and what other founders can take away for their own journeys. I'm really excited to introduce Austin Maxey, founder of Fodeen. Austin spent several years in digital transformation and IT leadership, helping large organizations rethink how they work. Now he's taking the same system mindset into the home. Fodeen helps families turn what's already in their fridge into real-time inventory management by tracking groceries, reducing food waste, and simplifying weekly meal planning. Austin, thank you so much for being here. I would
Thanks for
love
having
to
us.
hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so as you kind of alluded to, I've spent the last 15 years in supply chain technology, so helping large and small organizations rethink their supply chains. And so we're taking those principles at Fudine and trying to simplify inventory management at the grocery level. Our whole mission was really to reduce food waste and are trying to leverage our decades of experience in the supply chain and inventory management arena in particular to help households like my own and yours, and hopefully some of your viewers, on how we think about managing groceries.
That's awesome. That's really interesting because it is a problem. I think for me, it's I come home and next thing you know, all my groceries are that I bought last week is shoved to the back of the refrigerator. So I totally get it. When you think about households that you're building for, what does a stressful food week look for them? Like what is it that you're solved for that actually made you think about getting this started and why Foodie and why now?
Well, you start talking to households. First, it was a passion or a pain and a passion project because of a pain that when you start looking at households, we waste roughly 40% of the food that we buy.
Wow.
It's really bad, and Americans are the worst. That can equate to thousands of dollars a year at the household level. So we were trying to simplify that, and the way that our thesis we look at it is if you can simplify how we track and know real time what exists in your household, you're better served with creating whether it's plans, meal plans. Some of us are proactive, others are more reactive, myself included. So we're looking at creating automated plans to consume the food we have based on spoilage rates and what you have on hand. So creating meals and meal plans for those individuals based on what they have in house. And then we partner with retailers and folks like Instacart to source any missing ingredients based on your desires. But ultimately, it's we are not a meal planning app. We are not a social media recipe transformation app. Those are features and functions. And when it comes down to it, the way that we are trying to help households consume what they have on hand is by allowing them to track exactly what comes in and goes out of the house. And hopefully, the intent is that when it's going out of inventory, it's not into landfills, it's into nutritious meals.
That's awesome. When you first started this and you got your early users or early testing on this, was there any feedback that you'd gotten that was surprising to you?
Not necessarily surprising, but the biggest thing and something we validated early on is friction. So
Hmm.
you need to have a process by which it is low touch for a consumer to engage with the technology. So we really take that to heart in how we plan our product and introduce new features and functions. It's all about reducing friction. So it's one thing to say like, hey, you build a relationship with a large grocer and they can tell you exactly what an individual buys. that's a technology solve and it's pretty simple. The harder part is understanding that you're making the same meals generally each month. And well, I don't want to have to update you. I just know how to execute on that meal. But I need, as a Fodeen user, understanding when those meals are made and consumed, how to uh, remove that from inventory. So we're always building tools like voice to text agents um,
Oh, wow.
that help people reduce some of those friction points. But what we did learn is the value, that we didn't know that we can bring to the household. So when
Mm.
the numbers will tell you $1,800 per household in America are lost to food waste. If you're
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
shopping at a Sprouts or a Whole Foods and you really prioritize organics or Whole Foods, that number is much higher. Um, and especially when you look at growing households, so you have younger children, you're busy, you're working families, there's more waste. And so when you look at the dollars wasted, the value proposition of a tool like Foodine is much higher. And so something we've learned is the ability, if we can give the consumer features like, price shopping, an
Mm.
organic tomato, whether you procure it at Whole Foods, Albertsons, Kroger, wherever you may be, Wegmans, is generally similar. So if we can help you shop for price point, which is a big deal right now for consumers, there is a significant value placed on that.
That's really awesome. I think that's super important, especially now. Food is just so expensive. Just going to the grocery store and you come out thinking, what did I buy? Uh, so when you defined your MVP, um, Fooding could have been so many things, as you pointed out. It could have been a meal tracker, it could have been this, but you were really focused on that element of supply and demand, basically how much you're spending. So, as is this when developing it, what was your initial MVP to versus what it ultimately became? What did it change over time? Did it actually become what you expected it to be, or talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So going back to what I mentioned earlier in terms of friction, that is where our product evolves. So
Mm.
coming up with solutions to reduce any bit of friction in our technology and in result in the consumer's life is mission critical. So we're constantly evolving on the multimodal technologies. So whether you're a very tech forward household, let's say that you've got meta glasses, I want to be able to look through my pantry and inventory everything. We're building those type of technologies to very crude technology of simply snapping a photo of a receipt. But there's a lot of data that isn't captured today in that simple OCR technology that we're able to do, because what we do at the underpinning of our technology is what we call catalog ontology and the
Mm.
catalog intelligence layer. So every grocery that interfaces with Fodeen is categorized for the broader community to use. So when you bring in, say, ground chicken, we know the nutritional values. We know the percentage of lean cut. Is it organic? Is it farm raised? All for the fact that we're building a knowledge base that allows us to match to any retailer, to any supplier, and really allows us to scale vertically in the category. So supplier being the CPG, could be the poultry manufacturer, like a Tyson's Foods. So it
Hmm.
allows us to look at all of their products and create a matching engine from the ontology to match consumer demand to catalogs within a retailer and then into a requirement, in this case, a recipe. And in fact, makes us a lot more sticky to the consumer.
Oh, nice. Very cool. And does it, I'm sure with people around the different areas of the United States, food is different price points. Does your software account for the different geographic locations?
So what we do is when we partner or we just scrape data from a retailer's website, It is all geo-based. So we
Oh,
look at
nice.
where you're based. The some people don't want to shop at certain grocers
Hmm.
based on the product they're trying to source. We look at the geographics, we look at their preferences and price point, and give those consumers options.
Hmm.
Again, our intent is to not be an e-commerce engine either, but we're trying to give, when you think about managing inventory at its base level, you want to know what's on hand, what's coming in, what's going out. But more importantly, what's coming in is you've got options. We're trying to deliver value for what goes in, and value may be a price point. It may be what's available now because I want to cook a meal, what's available now and be can deliver to me within 45 minutes by one of Fodeen's partners like an Instacart or a Kroger. So all those factors weigh into the decisions that we allow our consumers in terms of choice.
Right. Okay. Well, nice. That's great. So when you came up with the MVP, can you walk us through like a week of what you envision, not even just the MVP, just more of what it is now. Can you walk us through a week of a life someone actually using the app? Like what would they do to actually use it and make it? Because you mentioned low friction, and I've come to that as well as a technical founder. We created something that was just amazing to us, and then we're like, well, nobody can use it very easily, so
Yep.
we had to like lower that friction. For you, can you kind of walk us through what it would look like for somebody to using the application?
Yeah, there's kind of two primary use cases what we think about. And we are not a social platform. We're expecting somebody to log into our platform every single day. So there's two use cases. One, you are planning a week, and it could just be shopping. You want to log into Fodeen and say, okay, I can see that, I'm going to always order these 20 things every week, but now I've got intelligence that says, well, just because I'm at work, I know I generally order eggs every week. Hey, you've only consumed 6 eggs, and those 6 eggs are not going to expire for another 14 days. Well, maybe at that consumption, you've got a kid out of town this week. I'm not going to buy that because I can real time look at what I have on hand. And then it's also the second piece of that use case is that the order replenishment we can auto order for you based on certain thresholds. So the
Oh,
20
wow.
things you buy every single week, we know you're going to buy some bib lettuce and the eggs and the ground chicken. Is it consumed yet? Maybe, maybe not. We can help you make those decisions. So it's really your weekly buying um, for consumables or even pantry items.
Oh, nice.
And the second use case is you get invited to, or you decide you're going to throw a party. You're going to have game night. You're going to invite some friends over. You want to make this fun recipe. Well, we can easily, what we do is we marry the recipe with your inventory and say, okay, you want to make this. It's calling for 10 items and you have six. But unfortunately, you have a seventh one, but you only have 1 pound of rice on hand versus the recipe calls for two. So you could use Fodeen to then plan or directly order to fulfill those missing ingredients. So it's really primarily for the consumer to plan their purchasing based on what's been consumed or not. And then secondly is you're ordering based on an event. And then what underpins all of this is we as ingredients, I'm sorry, as groceries come in, we know generally when things are going to expire. So based on USDA standards, we know baby spinach is going to last in the refrigerator for 8 days. On day 6, I'm going to recommend that, hey, based on your preferences, your allergies, here's a great Mediterranean recipe because you have all four of the ingredients required
Oh,
and you've got two
wow.
of which are going to expire in the next 48 hours. You should think about using it. Whether you use our recipes or not does not matter. We're trying to um, prompt people to utilize before they expire.
Wow, that's great. That's a really cool tool. And when you created It sounds as though this is geared towards the person who does a lot of the grocery shopping, and typically that's women, mostly. But who is your ICP, or who is it that you are targeting, and has that changed over time?
It has not changed, but I will say we're still very early in our journey. We target primarily today the millennial household, could be single or dual working parents. And
Mm,
the reason for that, one, millennials are digitally native. Two, they're very um, motivated to conserve not only their own time and money, but waste. Like there is a social element to this category. So we primarily are targeting those folks that are motivated by these productivity changes to help automate their lives and make things simpler.
nice. Very good. Have any surprising segments? I know it hasn't changed, but has there been a moment where you might have had a surprise if someone says, "Oh, this would be really good in this demographic type," or has it been pretty much stable in terms of the targeting?
I will say nothing's stable,
Okay.
and everything is on the table. But surprisingly, we've had some positive feedback from students
Oh.
or early young professionals for the
Mm-hmm.
reason of they're generally living with a friend, sometimes a partner, or
Mm.
many roommates, and so they're generally sharing some level of their grocery inventory. So you could have
Right.
an account on Fodeen. It's by household, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you as a user you may be adding to the inventory of the household. You bought some cereal and some ground chicken. Your roommate bought some other things, but you're sharing those, or maybe not. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what's on hand, right? You know when they've
Right.
inventory. You're at least sharing the appliances. You're sharing the shelf space at the home, so you know what exists. So that's been a surprising category. Truthfully, not somebody we really set up
Oh.
to address, but the needs are the same. Are
Mm-hmm.
their priorities the same? No. I mean, that is a category that, while the general the the standard for American households is we're shopping for groceries 6 times a month. That category may be even higher because they're just, I'm going to make chicken and rice tonight. I don't have any chicken. I'm gonna go buy it today after work. They may be
Mm.
shopping a lot more.
Right.
But again, the inputs are a lot different because you're sharing the household. It's not one buyer.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. So I know you're starting with B2C today. Are you at all considering B2B, B2B2C, or any of those things? I know you have like partnerships with Instacart and things like that. But what is your future looking like for
So
your
in the
company?
long run, B2C is just the short run, and the way that you build a knowledge base around product and consumer data. Long run, we
Mm,
want to be in a B2B space where we're building a completely new data consumer insights category we consider post purchase consumer consumption data. And so, whether you're going to an IRI or a Nielsen, they're going to tell you what's moving off the shelves at whether it's your stores as a retailer, your competitor shelves, but they're not going to tell you what the household's doing, right? So
mm-hmm.
we are trying to unearth a new data category for retailers and CPGs to understand what consumers are actually doing with the products, what's being consumed, how quickly things are being consumed, because what that yields is better strategy around package sizing,
Mm.
around what's placed on the shelves and the planograms. So it's a whole nother category of insights that we're trying to unlock. First, you need to
Mm-hmm.
win at the consumer level. You build up
Right.
the ontology around the products and the consumer behaviors. Then you can go out and package a new category of intelligence.
Awesome. Really strategic. I like that. It's very similar to our strategy as well, getting with the consumers and understanding what the pain points are. So, in terms of your founder journey and the digital transformation, being the leader of Fodeen, you founded other companies as well, or is this your first?
So this is my second startup. The first was a marketplace. So very early on in the digital creator um, gig economy community, we were helping marketers source new clients
Mm,
and vice versa, kind of like what you would see in an Upwork today. So
all right.
we were working with marketplaces, so we're very familiar with the chicken or the egg, right? So driving consumer demand for B2B demand.
Right.
So that was our first endeavor. And then throughout that entire life cycle, over the last decade and a half, I've been working in the technology space, and then primarily in supply chains.
Nice. So in terms of like how you're building Fodeen, is your strategy being that you had already had a business and you've been in that in the technology space for a while? How is building Fodeen different from your previous startup experience?
Um, One, capital. So I think we're far more capitalized in this endeavor, which is great. Secondly, I think I have a much better vision on what drives interest. So I
Hmm.
think we spent a lot of time early on in our first business trying to understand what the consumer demand signals were. Now I think we've got a much better idea, or at least have been able to come up with strategies that will unearth demand signals much faster, or understanding when to cut bait and saying, this just isn't working. We spent a lot of time going in the wrong directions in the past, and so now I think I've got a much better barometer um, in understanding what works and what doesn't.
Nice. I like that. So, I've definitely have gone the made the wrong decisions or gone the wrong direction. So you pivot a lot in these early founder stages. At least I've discovered. So
Yep.
founders who are really still very early, and maybe stuck on the idea mode, what's one thing that you wish you would have done sooner for Foodine?
So, I mean, truthfully, I think we would have probably iterated on the product a little bit sooner. So we built the initial MVP, had our beta release, uh, really waited to listen to the feedback before building. And in hindsight, maybe that was right. But I think we had such strong conviction, which ultimately, most of which was validated through the beta, that we could have been building some of that in flight versus waiting, listening, and then launching a second iteration of the product. Um, I am under the mindset, especially I'm a solo founder. I have a technical background, I have a business background, so I feel like I'm well suited and have lived in this space for decades now. Even if you are not all of those things, I think going out and trying before trying to wait and find another co-founder that you think is going to motivate you or build the right skill sets, um, especially in this current age of I don't think it's perfect, but does it move you faster? Absolutely. So as a founder, I will say, like, and for those folks in the idea stage, go out and try. Um, and see what kind of and trying can mean a lot of different things. Like you may have some really lightweight MVPs, or you may have simply just customer testimonials. Like go out and tell the story to a broader audience. Find the community you want to target. Build something. And it doesn't have to be a product, it can be idea, but take it beyond that of like having a conversation with your friends, your family about this really cool idea you have. Take it out to the consumer and tell that idea.
Awesome. That's great advice. I definitely have done that, kind of talking with my friends or talking with colleagues and how to go about doing it. What, something about this is kind of an interesting question, but what mistake or hard lesson would you happily let another founder borrow so they don't have to earn it or learn it the hard way? Is there something that stands out to you?
I think value. Like I think it's very easy to undervalue your initiative or the value you provide to customer. I'm speaking in more the consumer sense. B2B is maybe slightly different, but you also have in the B2B space, I think you've got a lot more tangible comps to price against. In the consumer space, it's hard to weigh with the amount of offerings that a consumer has to solve any number of their problems, how to value yourself. And oftentimes in a SaaS world, we think about, is it $1 a month? Is it $10 a month? And everywhere in between, it's hard to value yourself. But if you can find a niche, know that you do, I mean, assuming you've got a strong idea, strong product, people will pay for it. Now you have to find the right people. You need to tell the right message. But I think we set out to be completely free with an upper tier premium offering, and we still allow that in our product. Inventory management at its core is completely free to anyone. Now there are certain things when we talk about those price comparisons that we are going to put behind a firewall, and you need to pay for, but that's what we had to figure that out the hard way, understanding like where the value lies, what is valuable, what is not, what is table stakes. But I do think, in my opinion, is understanding value, and that you do have value was a hard it was a hard thing or it took us a while to figure it out.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I totally hear that. It is definitely challenging, especially at the beginning, trying to figure out the entire thing for what the journey is. So let's go and take back your personal story. Like, what is it about you, and on a very human level, what keeps you personally obsessed? Tell us a little bit about you. You know, where you're from, what you do, what's your hobbies, what brings you to today? Because it's an interesting journey to get to a founder level, right? Because you work all your life, and some people really know what they're going to do, some people don't, and it's kind of interesting to hear the whole stories. Tell us a little bit about you, like who are you as a person?
Who is Austin? So I am a father of two young boys, and probably about 8 years ago, my wife signed us up for Blue Apron. And she also signed me up for some cooking classes. And since then, I've become the cook in the household, and I very much enjoy it. My wife does all the shopping, I do all the cooking, and it became very much a pet peeve as my boys were getting older, and not old. I mean, they're young, but we were wasting too much. But it's the dynamics of sports, it's the dynamics of work, startups, etc., that create turbulence in your life, in all of our lives. And what yields at the end of it is waste. Oftentimes, time, money. We wanted to solve that. Everybody has to eat. Everybody goes to the grocery store. How do we do that? I've spent many years in supply chains, and I wanted to try to solve this, not from a social media perspective, not from another meal planning app. We wanted to go down to the most boring level of item management. If you know what's in your home, you're far better and more intelligent to use what you have. So at a baseline, Austin is a technologist, but also was very fed up with the mechanics of the household, and which I found out is the case for nearly every household that has multiple household members. And so that's where it came down to, like, I know how to solve this, and I will solve this, and here we are.
Nice. I love that. So if we fast forward 5 years and Fodeen has become all of what you hope it to be, what does that look like for you? What's changed in the way households think about food and waste and planning?
One, Fodeen is a must-have, not a nice-to-have. So rather than having your bank account app, you look at it once a week, once a month, for the sake of understanding what's going in, what's coming in, what's going out. What do I have on hand? Fodeen should be in the exact same category in 5 years. It's a must-have. Where you track all your items, you know exactly what you have, when it expires. How you utilize that data could be very different by the household, but it is a must-have technology. And so because of that, we've built a community of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of households utilizing, contributing data to our ontology. And I'm able to then unearth that category of data and consumer insights to then sell into retail and CPG.
Perfect. So this has been really awesome. So before we wrap up, I'd love to give you a chance to share where people can find you and Fodeen, how they get a hold of you. And for anyone listening who's thinking, I need this in my kitchen, where to go and who's the ideal person to try Fodeen right now. I know you touched about it, but this is all about you. So let's go ahead and tell people what you want.
Thank you for that. So Fodeen is live on the Apple Store, and so only Apple, iPhone or iPad. And so anybody that wants to try us can log in. It's absolutely free, as I mentioned. So create an account. And check us out. But if you do so, I want to hear about it. Everything, and be honest. Everything you would want to see in the product, is on the table. You can also check out what we're doing at Fodeen.com, Fodeen.com. And you can always shoot me a message. I'm on LinkedIn, Austin R. Maxey, and I'm very responsive. So please reach out, keep in touch, let me know what you think. Because there's plenty of products out there on the market, whether you're trying to solve your meal planning needs, there's even item tracking. We don't think they do it well because nobody's disrupted the space yet. But if you're using those tools, please let me know what's working for you, what's not, and check us out.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing the behind the scenes behind Fodeen. For everyone listening, if this has been helpful, you can support the show by liking, subscribing, and sharing. And if you're another founder or friend who get value from this, and if you want to turn your work into living career proof, you can check out ViaSkill at ViaSkill.com. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Grace.
Thanks, Austin.